I've got the purple Houston Astros jersey on today because you've been hearing everywhere that Houston is one of the most affordable places to move to, and you're already packing your bags and thinking about moving down here tomorrow. But is it actually one of the most affordable places you can be? That's what we're going to find out today. I'm going to talk to you about daily life here in Houston, exact housing costs, some of the most sought after areas here, inner loop Houston, and some of the most sought after suburbs that are about 30 to 45 minutes away. We'll talk about property taxes, some of the hidden costs like a commute tax, and everything that you should know about Houston. Let's get into it. Baseline question, should you move to Houston? And while I'm gonna help you to answer that, I'm probably the exact wrong person to actually help you to answer that because I'm biased. I love it here. One of my favorite Houston Astros pitchers named Lance McCullers was quoted as saying, "Bury me in the H," and I've never felt something more deep within my soul. Yes, there are prettier places to be. Yes, there are certainly cooler places to be because it is hot as hell down here and it is humid. If you have straight hair, you're not gonna after this because it's just gonna go rant and mess all up. Maybe that's the reason you don't move here. But we've got a steady economy, we've got a great food scene, and one of the most diverse populations in the country. It is a great place to be, and I'm gonna do my best not to convince you of only that, but really give you the real truths of everything that you need to know, pros and cons. Major point here, affordability. So we're gonna start by comparing a single family home inside the inner loop of Houston versus a single family home in one of our outlying suburban areas that's really popular. For this example, we'll use Cypress. Now also, since the average price of a single family home in America was $440,000, that's the metric that we'll use for comparison here. Inside the inner loop of Houston, $440,000 is going to get you really close to your neighbors, not many bedrooms and bathrooms, and not much of a backyard to speak of. You can expect a townhouse style of home right on top of your neighbor on a very small lot, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and it's gonna be a little bit outdated, so don't expect something that's gonna be super modern, right? It's gonna be about 10, 15, maybe even 20 years old, and you're gonna walk in there and need some paint, maybe update the granite and backsplash, and you'll have about 2,000 square feet. But you will be pretty close to bars, nightlife, grocery stores. The area will be walkable and you'll have some parks around you. So there's that. Plus, you'll avoid the commute because you'll be right down the street from work if you work in Houston. Now, outside in the suburbs, and again, we're using Cypress for this example, you'll find a lot more space in all regards. So if you're looking for that backyard space, you're gonna find your backyard in Cypress. If you're looking for maybe more than 3 bedrooms, 4 or 5 even, you're gonna find it. If you need more than 2 bathrooms, you might find 2 to 3.5 bathrooms out in the suburbs of Cypress. Now, the other thing is that maybe you don't need that much house, but you'd like to see a pool. You can find that in Cypress as well. They're gonna have the conveniences that you're looking for, just not as close proximity to your house. So expect maybe a 5 or 10 minute drive to the grocery stores, restaurants, and retail, stuff like that, just depending on where in Cypress you're at. In certain pockets, you can be literally just a few minutes from those conveniences also. So really the major point here is that you're gonna get a lot more house for your money. Another thing to consider is comparing our property tax rate. You do pay property taxes everywhere around here, but the tax rate is typically lower inside the loop than it is outside the loop. This is because in your suburban areas, typically your water and sewer is serviced by what's called a Municipal Utility District. Now, you pay every month your water and sewage to that municipal utility district, but they also tax you on it because they've got to service that district somehow. So you have extra taxes outside of the city versus inside the city. And now we come to a hidden cost. We're gonna call this the commute tax. That's right. It's not something that you actually pay money to, kinda. Actually, you do in some ways, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. What the heck is the commute tax? If you choose to live in one of those suburban areas and you work in Houston, you can expect a commute of roughly 20 to 40 miles and you can expect a time frame of roughly an hour to an hour and a half every day one way. So on your way into work, an hour and a half possibly, and on your way back out to the house, an hour and a half possibly. Every step of the way, you're gonna be fighting good old Houston traffic. I hope you know exactly how I mean that. Not great. There are HOV lanes and there are toll lanes, so you can pay, and I do every single day when I commute from Cypress to the Galleria area. But if you do happen to sit in traffic, it's gonna take a toll on your patience at the very, very least. But I also want you to consider the amount of oil changes that you're going to have to do, the amount of tires that you're gonna go through, really the maintenance that you're going to have to take care of on your car because of that commute. So something maybe you haven't thought about, the commute tax. Side note here, don't get me started on Houston drivers. We will save that for probably its own separate video. Traffic is one thing, but just the general driver in Houston, that's a whole other thing. I touched on another hidden cost just a minute ago. When I said property taxes, you may have been like, what the heck is that? In the state of Texas, you do pay taxes on ownership of property. So what do those things go to? Who makes it up? What the heck is he talking about? You're gonna pay taxes differently depending on where you're at. It could be county taxes, so Waller County is gonna be a little bit different than Harris County. Could be independent school district taxes, so Cy-Fair is gonna tax a little bit different than HISD, Houston ISD. It could be that mud tax that we were talking about. You may or may not have that. You're gonna have different flood control districts, but these things really control the infrastructure that is around you that you take for granted every day. You are paying for it. It just comes out of your property as a property tax. Next hidden cost coming at you. Homeowners insurance and flood insurance. So we'll talk about both of those. Maybe you know about homeowners insurance and you expected that, but you probably won't expect the cost to be as high as it is. Our insurance costs over here are really, really high. So much so that it is affecting affordability indeed. The other thing is flood insurance. We're called the Bayou City, so best believe that anything can flood, even if it's not in the 100-year or 500-year floodplain. You don't always have to have flood insurance, but you should highly consider it. So that's gonna be an extra hidden cost on you. From hidden costs to terrible drivers and extreme commutes, I have beat up on Houston enough, way more than I'd like to, and I can tell you firsthand that the goods outweigh the bads. So let's get back to some of those things that I told you I love about Houston and the reasons why I'll never leave. We're gonna start with the food scene. We have an insane food scene like you wouldn't believe. We're close to the coast, so we've got seafood galore. We're in Texas and there's a bunch of cows here, so steaks, goodness gracious. Mexican food, we're right next to the border. Mexican food galore. Plus we have Tex-Mex, and that's a whole different animal. Barbecue, Thai cuisine, Indian cuisine, anything that you can think of, name it. We're so diverse here that the food is all over the map and it's all top tier. This is one of my favorite things. Our economy is basically a tank. This thing is unstoppable. I remember watching back in 2008, the rest of the country just kind of collapsing around and being like, that's crazy. It doesn't feel like that here at all. One of our major industries is obviously oil and gas, right? But then we've also got a huge medical field in the Texas Medical Center. We're right by the coast, so international trade is huge. And you also have huge manufacturing industry, plus NASA is here, so aerospace engineering. With all of those things in mind, it feels like this here basically, while the rest of the country does this. And that is a great reason to be here in Houston. And the last thing, diversity. And you probably wouldn't expect that about Texas. I know you imagined horses and cowboys, but this isn't Yellowstone. This is Houston, Texas, and we are an international hub. We're one of the most diverse cities in the US entirely. You should come visit us for that reason. It feels like a different world here. Should you move here? Heck yeah, you should. So if I didn't scare you away and you feel like I feel like Houston is the right place for you and you're ready to pack those bags, I don't care if it's 9 days, 90 days, or next year sometime, I would love to make the transition seamless for you. I'd love to give you the real world comparison of Houston versus some of our outlying suburbs like Katy, Cypress, Tomball, Hockley, and Waller, and figure out which one is right for you. Give us a shout. We'll see you in the next one.